Dragon Age is one of the best RPG franchises ever in my opinion, and despite the fact that it's been nearly 7 years since Inquisition came out, and more than a decade since Dragon Age Origins started the series, the Dragon Age games are still some of the best RPGs worth your time in 2021. But for some, outdated graphics and UI and even some of the mechanics and animations might be a barrier to entry. With newer, more modern RPGs like Divinity Original Sin 2 sort of filling the space that BioWare once used to occupy with games like the original Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights and Dragon Age Origins for that matter, you might be thinking Dragon Age needs a refresh of sorts. And you'd be right. If you're like me, you've probably been wondering if Mass Effect Legendary Edition is doing so well, what's going to happen with Dragon Age? Will EA and BioWare set their sights on another remaster collection of a beloved franchise? Well, today we're going to be taking a look at a few reasons why Dragon Age Legendary Edition might just be more likely than you think. After all, it's not like BioWare hasn't talked about doing a remaster of the Dragon Age games. Many people don't know this, but Dragon Age executive producer Mark Darrow was asked about this on Twitter a couple of years ago, and he actually said the studio hoped that they could do it. Specifically, when asked if a Dragon Age Origins remaster could be in the works, Darrow said, quote, "Hopefully, it would be an involved job, however." Two other major BioWare devs chimed in on Twitter, namely producer Mike Gamble and then studio manager Casey Hudson, albeit they were chiming in with emojis, but it still clearly seemed to be devs publicly tilting their hand a little bit to express interest in doing this. That was back in 2018. Around October of 2019, a second important piece of evidence developed, and that is EA saying on one of their investor relations calls that it was going to re-release fan favorites as remasters. At that time, we knew that that meant a Command & Conquer remaster, and many people speculated that it could mean a Mass Effect Trilogy remaster, which turned out to be true. This is a key piece of evidence to keep in mind because we have to remember that EA and BioWare are a business and their corporate strategies are going to drive most of what they do. But it's become clear now that EA has a strategy of incorporating remasters into more of their portfolio, and in this case, given how good the Mass Effect Legendary Edition remaster was, I'd say that's a good thing. But this all brings up some key questions, namely, if they do a remaster, what changes would they make and what specifically would be included? After all, Dragon Age has 3 games in the series, but it's not exactly a complete trilogy, with Dragon Age Inquisition DLC Trespasser ending on a cliffhanger, and 2 of the 3 games were made on a separate game engine, with only Inquisition being made on Frostbite. Personally, I don't think Inquisition will be included in any remaster efforts. I think it's still relatively speaking too new and would require too much work to remaster in Frostbite. It's recently gotten an FPS boost on Xbox Series X, but I think what it really needs is a true next-gen patch with native 4K, 60 FPS, and the fade-touched textures previously only available on PC, along with some other PC-only settings like full ambient occlusion and higher lighting quality turned on. This way there's no need to necessarily upscale or recreate assets, but you're just turning on or enabling things like higher resolution textures that were previously only on PC. Make it a free update for existing console owners. Maybe it will get some new people to buy the game, but really just building some goodwill and a way to help build up more hype for the actual remaster. Which would include, and this is what I think the actual Dragon Age Legendary Edition remaster should be, Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age Awakenings, the expansion pack for DAO, all other DAO DLC like Witch Hunt, Stone Prisoner, etc., all the stuff that is truly a part of the Dragon Age Origins experience, as well as Dragon Age 2 and every piece of DLC for that game. And if EA and BioWare really want to sweeten the deal, I think they could even throw in some digital versions of the comics and or novels in the Dragon Age franchise to really give people the full experience of the story and Thetis up to that point. If you think about all that, I think there's a good case to be made that this is worth a $45 or $50 price point. Would I put it past EA to do a full $60 release? No, and honestly, depending on what improvements they made, I think a lot of people would still be happy to pay for that. Naturally, we would expect a graphics upgrade similar to what we got for Mass Effect 1 in the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, so that would mean for Origins, all textures upscaled with AI processing, some new models, some new textures, the quote-unquote beautification level redesign passes, brand new lighting and shadows, more modern post-processing effects like depth of field and ambient occlusion, an updated character creator, just to name a few features that we'd like to see. Also, I'd love to see some improvements to the combat system, not unlike what we saw for ME1. Don't get me wrong, I love DAO's combat for its strategy and because it feels like a proper RPG that BioWare was known for making all the way back to the original Baldur's Gate days. but I wouldn't mind some new and or redesigned class abilities and newer, more exciting animations, especially for rogues and warriors. Now, I'm not saying that I want the Dragon Age 2 Power Rangers super flippy animations that we got. If anything, they could maybe tone those down a little bit in the remaster for Dragon Age 2 while they're at it, but a nice middle ground between the two would be a nice addition. DAO's combat feels pretty slow, and warriors and rogues in particular don't have a visceral or impactful feel. And for Dragon Age 2, I think it could use at least some texture upscaling, maybe some porting in of assets, maybe some new assets that really need to be redone, but more than anything, what Dragon Age 2 could benefit from is even a few new interior map layouts. Probably the biggest criticism of DA2 when it launched was the repetitive dungeons and other interiors, as well as the ridiculous imbalance of having random groups of enemies spawning in mid-combat, which was super annoying and frustrating. So a nice balance pass and some environmental passes for Dragon Age 2 could go a long way. I've said it, many of you already know it, but Dragon Age 2 has a really solid, really underrated story and some great characters, but it suffered from a really short development cycle and was rushed out by EA to make a quarterly release window, so some corners had to be cut in order to meet that deadline. If it got some of those rough edges touched up, I think it would be held in much higher regard and a lot closer to Dragon Age Origins. Honestly, I know I'm preaching to the choir already on this, but Dragon Age 2 is incredibly underrated, and Dragon Age Origins is rightly held as one of the best RPGs ever. So if ever there was a candidate for a remaster, it's these two games. Oh, and I didn't even really touch on how good Awakenings is as an expansion pack or how good the Witch Hunt DLC is. Believe me when I tell you, this is possible. I'm not saying it's a sure thing. There are questions that would need to be answered, like BioWare's capacity for this, while Dragon Age 4 and Mass Effect are being developed again, but it's EA's corporate strategy, and if you didn't see it in my earlier video, Mass Effect Legendary Edition sales estimates are putting it as one of the best launches BioWare has ever had, so there is money to be made. But, of course, as always, let me know what you think. Am I being too optimistic here? Do you think a Dragon Age Legendary Edition will happen or not? Leave a comment down below and let's get the conversation going. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button, and if you'd like to be informed of all future videos, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell notification icon. There is so much more coming up. I've got Essential Truth videos, definitely more Mass Effect content, including probably some stuff on Andromeda. I've just gotten into a weird Halo binge again for I don't know how many different times this has happened with Halo. I love Halo, so maybe Halo content in the future. Consider sticking around for that, but as always, thanks for watching, and thank you for listening.